65 or 64, I can't remember which. And it was a 6-year term, if I remember, but then I went to Japan before it was quite ended. So, but I did put in, most of that time. And this was a time when we were having a lot of conservative agitation in town. Do you remember Prince Chambliss?
Yes.
Our neighbor on Stonecrest, where we lived for 42 years, was killed falling off one of the mountains in Wyoming. They were mountain climbing or on the Great Tetons. And the League of Women Voters and her friends were going to get together in her honor and have an educational scholarship for a person who was not didn't have the opportunity for his promised achievement. So they had the American Friends Service select somebody, and they brought up a mailman's son from Birmingham, Alabama. Well, they were going to send him to the high school. He was going to live with one of the families in town. But then people kept saying, well, who's going to pay for this? We can't have people doing this. It'll start a trend. Well, this took the do-gooders by surprise, So they said, well, we'll pay for it. We'll get a fund and we'll pay for it. Well, that's not the only thing. Anybody could pay for it, but bringing people in who don't live here. There was a town meeting that filled the Veterans Park School overflowing. That was so emotional, people got up to speak and started crying. And they wanted to stop this intrusion on our wonderful town. The high school senior class gave a petition signed by every member, including this woman's sons, to bring the kid in. This rattled everybody. I was told, personally, that if we let this African American in, although that was not the word used, there was a busload in North Salem ready to cross the border and enlist and come into the school system of like people. So that was the level that year, that time. Anyway, the kid was allowed in. His name is Prince Chambliss. He came in as a skinny, shy kid. He probably gained 40 pounds. I'm blocking on who he lived with, but Jane will remember. It was on Branchville Road. I can see the house. And he went to our high school maybe for 2 years. Graduated very high in his class. Went to, I can't tell you what university, but he went to Harvard Law School. And now he's a big shot lawyer in Alabama or Georgia. And he came back for the memorial service for the woman he lived with a few years ago. I'll get you her name. And now he's a big guy. And that was the end of bringing up deserving kids, which is what they planned to do. But it may have been a wedge for ABC.
I was going to say, yeah.
Okay? Because when ABC first came to town, there was a similar but not as emotional reaction against them. When they bought the house, the ABC house, there were petitions that it would reduce land values. And then they had a two-family house. They wanted to make it into one because they were going to have 5 or 6, 7 kids and a housekeeper. They said you couldn't do that. They've probably done it since, but there were all these barriers put up there based on emotion and what can I say? I don't think discrimination is the word enough. It has to do with just having this this feeling that things shouldn't change in my world at all. And of course, if you have black people, that's the worst change, or foreigners, or what have you. Now, look how successful that is. We brag about it.
It's a great program.
It is a great program. And so, Ridgefield, I think, kicking and screaming, has come into at least